Hi, I'm Joe Ellison, and I'm back with the sixth excerpt from my Tale of King Arthur and the Round Table in 1960s suburbia, Mr. Lake. In this excerpt, we're going to eavesdrop on a conversation between our hero, young Joe Marino, sixth grader, and his little brother, Mo. Let's get right into it. My favorite comic book is The Flash. Flash has got it all over Superman. Don't get me wrong, I like Superman, but he's got a power for everything. Flash has only got one power, super speed. You'd think that would be boring, but he uses it a million different ways. Say Superman wants to go through a wall. Bang! He goes through it. But Flash has got to figure out how to go through it. Sometimes he vibrates all his molecules around the molecules in the wall and slides right between them. Sometimes he shakes his arms back and forth, compresses all the air molecules between them into a pile driver, and punches his way through. Other times he goes so fast, he breaks the time barrier and runs back to before they built the wall. He goes through it because it's not even there yet. See, Flash is always thinking. In his secret identity, he's a scientist. Superman's a newspaper reporter. They ask loads of questions, but don't think as much. I mention this because of a Flash comic book I read a few months later. It was almost spring. The days were getting longer. After supper, I was lying on my bed reading. At the end of the story, Flash captured Super Gorilla Grodd by holding him up in the air in an impenetrable tornado he made by whirling one arm around like a propeller at super speed. It made me think of Larry. Why? Because Larry was big and about as ugly as a gorilla, and he was up in the air too. Him getting his hand smashed to smithereens hadn't made Larry any better. He could still look you right in the face and lie his head off. It was like a habit with him, the same way taking over the world was a habit with Grodd. No matter how many times Flash stopped him cold. Grodd couldn't stop, and neither could Larry. If Larry'd been less like Grodd and more like Flash, he could have figured a way out of the mess he was making out of his life. That's what I was thinking when my little brother came in and sat on his bed across from me. My father named him after my granduncle, Joe Marino, but all of us called him Mo. I was done with the Flash. Want to read this, Mo? I don't want to read that junk. Don't call me Mo. What do you mean, don't call you Mo? Mo makes people think I'm Jewish. Hanging around with Bruce Todress makes people think you're Jewish. I can't stop hanging around with Bruce. He's got the only basketball hoop in the neighborhood. I gotta practice. I didn't want to bust his bubble. He was still nothing but a kid. It hadn't dawned on him yet that no Marino was going to grow into a basketball player. A minute went by with neither of us talking. Then, as if it had been eating him, Mo asked me, "Why do you read comic books? You're supposed to be smart." Smart guys read comic books. That's where I learned words like impenetrable. You should read about history. I stuck my nose into the newest Green Lantern comic. I read about history in Classics Illustrated, like that issue about Julius Caesar conquering Gaul. He was an Italian like us, you know. I know, Mo flopped onto his back. You know about Hitler? I know all about all those old Nazis. They were the big cheeses behind those Kraut soldiers on combat. I'm not talking about Sergeant Saunders or Cage or Kirby. I want to know about the Jews. What about them? Did Hitler kill all those Jews? I turned a page. In big gas ovens, millions of them. People like Bruce? Millions of them, I repeated. What was he? Some kind of monster? Worse, I said, and this was where knowing some history came in. He was worse than a monster. I'll tell you the worst thing about him. I shut the green lantern and turned on my side toward Mo. Hitler had a German shepherd dog named Blondie. Mo didn't get it. That's the worst thing? Think about it. He gets this cute little puppy. He names it. He pats it. He feeds it. He plays with it. He does all the things you and me do with Ginger. And he can kill millions of people without thinking twice. Mo rolled off his bed. That is the worst thing. He walked out of the room. I didn't hear another peep out of him for the rest of the night. I went back to reading Green Lantern. And if you want to know how this little vignette fits into a tale of King Arthur and Suburbia and Joe Marino, you'll just have to buy a copy of Mr. Lake, which you can do by clicking on one of the links in the description box below, where you'll also find links to all my other works, to my web page, and to my Amazon author page, and I think a few other things. So I'd be pleased if you did that, and if you'd buy it and read it and let me know what you think. And if in the meantime you want to hear me read other excerpts from Mr. Lake and other works, then you can start by clicking on one of the boxes to either side of my head. Well, I want to thank you for stopping by. That's it for today, and I hope I'll see you again real soon.